Let's do a little overtime then here. Get a little bit more than 60 minutes. Let's talk about the Packers draft real quick. Jordan Love, the quarterback, comes off the board first, and it's running back A.J. Dillon, tight end Josiah DeGuara from Cincinnati, linebacker Kamal Martin, offensive lineman John Runyon, center Jake Hansen, offensive tackle Simon Spetniak, safety Vernon Scott, and edge rusher Jonathan Garvin. That's your class for the Packers. This is the worst draft class I've ever seen.
It's not even about the players. Like,
it doesn't make any sense.
It's just about the Green Bay Packers receivers besides Devontae Adams. None of them should be on a roster, right? They're all practice squad caliber players. And the Packers enter the draft here with, this draft is the best wide receiver class maybe ever. And
it is.
I don't know how much Packer media, Packers bloggers, the whatever Twitter sphere if you follow, but every mock draft I saw from a Packers person had 1, 2, maybe 3 receivers picked in this draft.
And there was a couple of them who did like the joke where they exaggerated it out and drafted like 19
every time.
Right.
Yeah, like this is what the Packers need to do. Like ha ha ha, but like I'm kind of joking here. They
but
might
like also serious. Yeah.
And they drafted zero receivers in this draft. Talent all over the place in this draft class. Tyler Johnson would have been their immediate number 2 option. They drafted none. Instead, they drafted a backup quarterback for Aaron Rodgers, who has been adamant about the fact that he wants to play in Green Bay for 5 more years. So that's a pick that, if all things go well in Green Bay, will be completely irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Then they have a running back who is a poor man's Derrick Henry, who is tall, big, strong.
For what it's worth, A.J. Dillon, talented
he's a strong
player.
Runner. Very
Good
strong
player.
Runner. Absolutely. Not a lot of value in the passing game. Plus, you have a stud in Aaron Jones. You have Jamal Williams, who already played way too much and took way too much of Aaron Jones' snaps. Now you get a third running back. What's the fit there? No idea. Then this tight end that they draft on is, I think, Cincinnati. I'm not going to say his name. Josiah something.
Yeah.
They said they wanted to use him like Kyle Juszczyk. They wanted to use him as a fullback. So for Aaron Rodgers, they drafted him his backup. They got him some competition. They drafted a running back who does not do anything in the pass game. In the second round, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then they drafted a tight end who is going to be a fullback for them. That is the weapons that they added for Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, he's going to be throwing to Geronimo Allison and Marquise Valdez-Scantling. And I couldn't even tell you who their tight end is right now. Is it Mercedes Lewis? Is he their number 1? He can't be their number 1. There's somebody else there. But so yeah,
Jimmy
and
Graham
Mercedes Lewis is the only first round pick Aaron Rodgers has ever thrown a touchdown to. Mercedes Lewis. He's thrown it one time to Mercedes Lewis. No other first round picks. That receiving class, the Packers should not have been 13-3 last year. Everybody knows that. I think they know it because they're drafting for the future. They're drafting their quarterback.
That's the only reasonable explanation for this, right? They know it. They know they're not that good.
They know they're not that good. That's the only explanation for this. And they're planning for when Rodgers is done. They are preparing themselves to stay competitive when Rodgers is done. They're not even trying to win with Rodgers anymore. They're just not. That's the only explanation for this.
I would be furious if I was a Packers fan. Just
and the best
absolutely
part has been, I know a couple Packers fans. I know I've been interacting with like Zach Jacobson on Twitter. Love that guy, right? And it's the mental gymnastics they're going through to talk themselves
Pete
into
Bukowski
this.
on Twitter. If you follow Pete Bukowski, he is a great hate follow if you're a Vikings fan, by the way.
It's like the mental gymnastics to go through to convince themselves that this is the right plan, that the Packers have this plan where they're going to go back to old school football with A.J. Dillon. They're going to run the ball. They got their quarterback set for the future for the next 20 years. This is going to be the next Rodgers, where they have that perfect transition. And maybe that does work out. But this is so much different than what it was in 05 when, Favre was going to retire at any moment.
Right.
And Rodgers was the number 1 prospect, and he fell to 24.
Right.
Jordan Love was a second-round prospect. And he had an atrocious 2019 season, and they drafted him in the first round. They traded up against nobody, right? They heard rumors the Colts were going to trade up, and the Colts didn't call the Dolphins. The Packers bid against themselves, and they won. The only thing they won the whole weekend was bidding against themselves for Jordan Love. It's great. I'm glad we got to talk about that. That's all I wanted to get off my chest.
Oh, that was great. That was worth sticking around for overtime. That was very
fun. I'm very happy about what the Packers did this weekend.
I want to hear.
I'm not gonna stop posting them.
I want to hear someone justify it like without like sadness in their voice. You know, like I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't like any of. I like AJ Dillon as a prospect. I never would like him.
I will admit the Packers fans that I know are like they're sad, but like they're disappointed. Right? They keep saying they're disappointed. They're sad. Like they wouldn't. That's not what they would do. But they're like, we'll see how it goes. You know, quarterback's never a bad position to draft, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And you know, this AJ Dillon guy, very productive in college. So, but it's just there's just so many other needs that they could have addressed with the first 3 picks, specifically in that draft, and instead they chose to pick a backup quarterback who, in the ideal world, won't even play for the Packers because their better guy will play for 5 more years. Running back who can't contribute in the passing game, and they already have 2 guys probably better than him, and a fullback. So I don't understand. I don't get it.
When the Lions are definitively drafting better than you, like there's no contest.
Wasn't even close.
The Lions are the only team in this division that gave even the Vikings a run for their money, and it's only because they got the best cornerback prospect. Period.
The Lions to win the North in 2020, 2021 is not a bad bet right now.
No, it's not.
You got 10-1. You got whatever the future is. Like, it's not a bad bet. The Packers are going to they're going to fall back to 500 or so. The Bears are still the Bears, and they don't need 50,000 tight ends.
No, they don't.
Are the Vikings going to win 10 games? Maybe not. I mean, the Lions might be a sneaky pick there. They drafted well. They addressed needs. Even they got rid of Darius Slay, they immediately filled a guy that might be better than him, Jeff and Okudah. So.
And they got Jay Sean Cornell from my high school, by the way. He ended up getting drafted. I was excited about that. That was nice to see. So, there's your quick analysis of the rest of the NFC North. I mean, just straight up, like, I know that this is a Vikings fan podcast, and I know that even, like, regardless of how hard Drew and I try to be 100% objective about everything we say, there's going to be some bias in there, especially towards a team like the Packers who you just inherently, not necessarily dislike, but you're inherently rooting against. But straight up, like, there's no justification for any of this. There isn't. Like, I can look at the Lions draft and it makes sense. I don't like that they drafted a running back at 35, but at least they drafted DeAndre Swift. You know, like they drafted the best running back in the class, you know? And I just don't. It's...
Like I want to say, well, the Lions drafted a running back in the second round, so that's not great. But the Packers did the same thing, and they drafted a guy that can't do anything in the pass game. And yeah, you could look around everywhere in NFL media, and you look at all the draft grades. You know, every single website's done it, right? Every single website you can think of, even the ones that get 4 clicks, you get your draft grades on there,
right?
And every single one has the Packers 32nd ranked in the league. I think I can't remember who I saw on Twitter from, but basically he compiled and averaged the rankings of like 15 experts, put them in, and gave like the GPA of every team.
Right.
And I think it was the Packers were 32nd with a 1.3 GPA, and I think it was like the next worst was like 2.18 or something.
Right.
So like it's not like they're definitively the worst draft class, and it's like you know, not even close to the 31st ranked draft class. So, and people are going to say, well, draft grades don't matter, this and that, and that's true. I mean, you know what we